Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone for being here tonight. Thank you. Notice is hereby given of a regular meeting of the Board of Directors of the District to be held at 105 Port Road, Port Isabel, Texas, on the 9th day of January 2019 at the hour of 5:30 p.m. for consideration of the business of the agenda below. This notice is posted at the office of the district on January 4, 2019 at 3 p.m. in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code 551-041-551-050, not less than 72 hours prior to the time of the said meeting. We do have the presence of a quorum. All the board members are present. Adam is in the other room, but he should be here any moment. If we may please go ahead and stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Heavenly Father, Jesus Christ, please bless us this day, and thank you for having a chance for a full quorum and just an opportunity to discuss the business at hand to help improve the water district. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. We do have all board members present for the meeting at this time. We may please go ahead and continue with item 3, invitation to the audience for public comments. That includes staff, board, at this time like to comment, add, share.
Just wanted to wish a happy new year to all, and welcome back. Ready to tackle another year, full of excitement coming up, so hopefully just welcome back.
Thank you. Likewise. Nice to see everyone here smiling and having a good time.
Here you go.
Anything else in closing? Thank you. Moving forward to item 4, consider and discuss for possible approval the minutes of the workshop meeting on December 8th. Seems so long ago now.
I'll move to approve.
There's a motion made by Mr. Avalos for approval. Seconded by Mr. Starkey. Are all those in favor?
Aye.
They are. Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you. Moving to item number 5, consider and discuss for possible approval of the minutes of the regular meeting on December 12th. Everyone had a chance to review those. Questions or comments about them?
Motion approved.
Motion to approve by Mr. Starkey, seconded by Mr. Avalos. Are all those in favor?
Aye.
They are. Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you. Moving to 6, General Manager's Report. Carlos?
Yes, sir, Mr. Sherman and members of the board. I wanted to fill up the new board members up there with the new portraits, and I'd like to have the full board come back and redo. I think those are a few years back, so I'd like to have new ones.
Oh, they all look the same.
That's my good side.
The only one that's out there that has 2 new board members, that they added to the existing, so I think we just need a full board on the one outside and possibly these, but if y'all are okay with that, just need a date. That gentleman can come by here anytime
Just do it before the next meeting.
before the next meeting, right, like about,
I mean,
Like that day.
like that date.
the hour before the
There you
meeting.
go.
Yeah, just do it, just 5:15,
Yeah, agreed. 5:15.
You shouldn't take them, right?
if possible. If not that meeting, the next meeting, whenever,
So,
just before a meeting.
I want you all to,
Dress up.
Dress up.
whatever you want.
Okay.
Water district shirt, you all right? I think I handed out.
How come everybody has this fancy shirt, by the way? What's up with the green shirt today? Is there a dress code?
Just what I handed out. You didn't get one of these?
I didn't get the green. The green one's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have on the blue one.
I have a blue and a white.
Blue? Yeah, that- I just don't remember.
I guess I scratched the
think
wrong
the
backs.
staff-
I've got nothing.
Staff bought the green ones and we got the blue ones for the.
The green was really nice. It looks good.
Yeah. Herb called me this morning.
I like shirt.
Reason being that the material not what you like, but we
Right.
got cotton for him. We got a green one and a blue one. I think you.
I'm happy with mine. Thank you guys very much. Yes.
And you have
Nothing.
one more waiting for you.
The medium, man. Nothing. I've got zero stuff.
They don't,
Where
they
my
were out of
purse?
mediums.
They barely make
Where my
mediums.
purse?
They only sell men.
Good to put on a little weight there.
No.
It's good. It should be.
You don't have a youth large upstairs in the room?
It has to be up there then. I thought we delivered it before Christmas.
Barely make them anymore.
No, I think Mr. Starkey got his when he came into the professional
RFQ, yes.
development.
Okay.
Completely.
You guys, I'm sure will sort it out.
We'll get it.
It's
No big deal. On with more important
A
things.
little bit, let me go through the agenda and then, so the 23rd, pictures. We can
Okay.
get the- Then on the next one that I have here is, I want to have a workshop pertaining to personal policy that we need to update because we have new board members, of course, and then update it with the new materials that we've been looking at. See if the board wants to go ahead and look into all these new things that are coming up that we're updating on, especially some of the services that we're doing on that policy, and then the service policy, the personnel policy, and the conservation drought contingency plan. There are three policies that we have to look into and actually just update mostly the first page where the new board members are in, you know, that page that shows the new board members, and very few new policies that are being looked at by the customer service committee.
The best thing to do is to take the existing policy and then highlight what you want, how we've done in the past, highlight
Right.
what changes and recommendations, highlight what you want to work on, and then what the proposal of the recommendation and the changes are for us
Right,
to
and
consider.
the customer service committee, I think Mr. Avalos and Mr. Houston are in it.
No,
Well,
just
we-
Mr.
no?
Avalos.
With Mr. Avalos?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's in
But,
the audit control committee.
Order control, okay, but they're both in, more or less in the same service policy. We want to implement more information in there.
To review and update what
So-
staff wants, and then we can go through
Right.
if anyone
Go
else
through it
has
and,
anything they
and,
want to address or
During
look
the
at.
workshop, but I'd like to know what day you guys are. Should take at least a couple of hours to go through it, an hour and a half maybe, the most 2 hours. You all want to do it during the week or weekend, or you all decide, because it's a lot of good information that's coming up, especially that odor control and.
I like
Well,
either,
I mean,
I like either before the meeting starts, add an extra hour to it,
Okay.
or bright and early on Saturday. Those are the working times for working
We can
on.
do, we got pictures here, but we can also go.
It'll be more than an hour though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 hours maybe. So, y'all
We
want to
can
have it
do
on
it on-
Saturday, that's fine with us. We're available here any Saturday, but if it's during before the meeting, it probably has to go into February the 13th or the 27th. This stuff that we have, we just need to update the names of the board members, and.
Well, that's minor stuff, but I mean,
Yeah, the main one is really the
Service.
odor control information.
Yes.
That's really the bulk of it.
for a workshop.
And actually, I think it would be helpful just to get the information, like Scott was saying, you know, with the before and the after, to get it in our hands, and so we can kind of start reviewing it now, and that way we're somewhat
Get ahead with
prepared.
the
And
information.
we might
and
have
then-
questions prepared, you know, for that day.
Why don't we try to do 4 o'clock on the 23rd? Get as much done, people that need their photos, they can peel off,
Okay.
go into the room, get their picture.
Great.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Change that.
Thank you. And then we will finish that, you know, everything that we have, we'll do it again. Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
at least we got a good start on it.
So 4 o'clock on the 23rd.
Yeah. That's it.
Okay?
That's all I have for right now. On those two reports.
Thank you, Carlos. Moving forward to item 7, consider and discuss for possible approval of audio and visual services, RFP.
So I received some information from Mr. Houston here, and he wanted to discuss this audio-visual services RFP. I believe it goes hand in hand with what we have done already. We purchased a drone for our benefit, you know, where we can send that drone up into the water towers, inspect, you know, look around, see how good, what condition they're in. And not only that, but also possibly take pictures of the areas, you know, like the water treatment plants and of course, what we have and what we need, you know, because I think that's what you wanted to
Well, here's my
talk
idea.
about on that one.
It has to be a little bit more than just a hodgepodge production.
Okay,
You know, we gave a real good tour to the mayor and the city councilman on the island, and they both commented that they wish more people could see this.
and we did the same with the new board members orientation.
And a recent friend of mine said that when she had the leadership Laguna Madre tour through that, it was very instructional.
Very
I mean,
informative,
Very eye-opening.
yes.
Of the water district.
Yeah,
Yes.
the water district. And it'd be good to take everybody, but we can't. So why don't we do 2 videos? One video on the water side of the district and one on the sewer side. A lot of it be a drone photography, but professionally produced, where someone could go to our website and see a 20 to 30-minute video on water production from the river all the way to the tap, and see what's involved, where the needs are.
On this operation.
Yes. Well, and do the same thing on the sewer side. That way, I think it'll be of a tremendous benefit if we're going to do a bond vote in November to start priming the pump, so to speak, and letting the public know what we have, what we need, and this is it. And with the drone technology, but it's got to be professionally done. Probably 60-70% of it can be done with drone because so much is outside, but you're also going to have inside photography, you're going to have narration and graphics and things like that, but it needs to be professionally done.
So you want us to look into getting an RFP out and hiring somebody to do it for us?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's see what you put it out there, see what type of proposals we get
I think
back.
it'd be a good investment, it really would be, because it's something we can use for many different purposes.
It can be updated over the years, especially showing the difference between the 2 water plants.
Right.
And where one is so much lacking compared to, then I would do a third film, maybe only 5 or 8 minutes that encapsulated both into one, where you could then take that to the city councils or the chambers as a teaser to say, this is what we got available now for y'all to go and see. Here's a short clip, and just to wet their whistle, so to speak. And I think you'll have something that will really be appreciated by the public once it's out there.
Okay, we'll need approval for that one, so.
So I'd like to make a motion to go ahead and go out for RFPs for the audio-visual services as so described.
Motion made by Mr. Houston,
I'll second that.
second by Mr. Starkey. All those in favor?
Aye.
They are. Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you. Excellent progress, Mr.
Start on
Houston.
that one then. Okay.
Item 8, Director of Operations report.
I'd really like to see, I like the comparables of the 2 years. We finally got that.
I went back and I found, December, I went back to the last the meeting, and I found I did have it, so from now on, I'm
Yeah.
gonna start doing that. And as you can see, there is quite a bit of difference from one year to the other. And most of it has been with the swapping of the meters. And once we finish this project of the new meters that we're installing, I would think this is gonna drop considerably. And the other, what offsets that is the profiles. Right now, we're not able to get any profiles. We won't need to get any profiles later on because the customer will be able to go in and look at their own account so they can check to see where they're using the most water during the time of day or the days that they're going, that they're using the most water. So they can pretty much manage their own water outage at that point.
Why do you think last year we had 45 water loss calls and none this year?
That's a good question.
Well, had some major leaks last year.
Yeah, we did have some leaks, and a lot of that might be under a different, reported under different than the customer
Classified
service.
differently?
Yes, it might be classified differently. I usually get customer service to print this report out for me, so I would need to, but I can look into it. I'll get back with you on that.
So is it the meter that they went and checked it out, and they realized, okay, we can't bill this?
Well, some of them are water line breaks.
Like, what's the difference between water loss and repair a leak?
Water loss is the water that get lost from either when they're testing the fire hydrants, or we have a break in the line. And the leak is just that the water line breaks, and so they go and fix that. Any other questions?
Where's that question that you had? Because I walked out the 45 versus,
Oh, I just was asking.
water loss?
The water loss. 45 water losses, and we have none this year. I think there's probably a little bit of overlap in terms of your water loss and your check repair leak. I mean, I know it says it at the bottom, but you might have somebody counting it one way in 17 and slightly different
And I have found that,
in 18.
could be.
yeah, because there's different individuals that handle the calls for service calls. And so
Somebody
depending
might call
on
the water loss and
information-
some might call a repair leak. I don't know if you need both of those in there. It might be
But
redundant.
usually, water loss is, you measure it in estimation of gallons, but this is, service calls, right? 45
You could have a water loss
loss.
and a leak, as for example, that leak where they had that water break there on South Padre in front of that Valero station, and we lost hundreds of thousands of gallons there because that water just kept coming, and we were having a hard time trying to shut it off. We couldn't find the valve, so there was quite a bit of water loss
The-
there
the
on that
40
one leak.
The 45 though represents the number of events.
I would think so,
That's what it
yes.
looked like,
Yeah.
that it represent, service calls, 45, and then
Right.
0 this year is not, I know we had more.
What I
Maybe
can
the
do
water
is-
loss doesn't go in that category. I think it's
What I
not
can
in
do
the
is
service call category.
try and find the report.
I think we do fill out a form for our water loss on our vacuum trucks and our
Oh,
generators.
yes, that's true. Yeah, but that's totaled in gallons, right, not number of service calls. So I think
Right.
that's in a different, should be in a different category. Water loss in itself is totally different than service calls. So I think it goes somewhere else.
And a lot of it depends on the information that the person taking the call, when they call into customer service and they give them that, the information, and whoever taking that information may classify it a little different.
It doesn't
I ran across
sound
that.
proper.
Yeah, I
to have
ran
water
across
loss
that
in
quite a bit.
But that's a good question there. We need to look into it.
Maybe we just need to reevaluate how those are actually really labeled, now that we're comparing them. Make sure we're exactly calling each call properly, or each notice properly. Any other questions, comments? No? Thank you, Robert.
Yes, sir.
Moving on to 9, consider and discuss for possible approval of ratifying manhole repairs at South Padre Island.
Yes, sir. As you all are aware, we had that manhole that collapsed at Amberjack and Gulf Boulevard. That took a few days. It took about 5-6 days to get it fixed. The total cost on that, in restoring that manhole was $15,500, and that's what we're asking for the board to ratify. Since we did this on an emergency basis, we called G&T to come out here and help us with that. That was a pretty deep hole. We don't have the equipment, we don't have the the backhoe to go in that deep. And because of the water that was coming up so fast, it just broadened the hole itself. It went to, I think the dimensions on that, well, I think they're in that invoice, were like 26 by 22 by the time that they finally got it together.
I have to go look at it, it was huge.
Yes, there was a pretty big hole. And so, collections department was able to put wet wells in there, but it just wasn't enough. When G&T came in, they put the additional wet wells, and it took a couple of days to stabilize that to where they can get in there and work on that. So that was done. The $22,848 in restoring the street back to the way it was, we're putting that under the contract. We have a contract with G&T, an annual contract, where whenever we go in and do any repairs and we have to tear up the street or a driveway or whatever, they come in and take care of that under the contract. We get a bid out, and they've been getting bid for the last couple of years, according to the black space they use in all the materials and so on. They've been getting that bid. So that part does classify or can go under the contract. But the $16,500 is what we're asking for ratification on.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Houston, seconded by Mr. Avalos. All those in favor?
Aye.
They are. Any
Aye.
opposed? None.
As a follow-up on the
Motion
your
carries.
comment about the tractor, where are we at with that? Are we gonna look into getting another backhoe, or what?
We've
It's supposed to
been
be
talking about that.
It's supposed to be an excavator, not a backhoe.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
Excavator.
excavator.
The bigger
Bobcat.
arm.
We do need a bigger excavator. Some of those manholes, they're down as far as 16 feet. Our current excavator cannot go down that far.
Just a little mini one?
Mini and medium.
Yeah, we have mini and a medium one, but we really need a
Large one.
The excavator that they were using, from what I could tell, was a little over a cubic yard as far as the dirt that they were able to take out. Our excavator probably is around half a cubic yard that you can get out. And so, in talking to the collection manager and his second in command and some of the other managers, we'd like to look at either getting a bigger excavator or trying to see if we can rent one right away without having to waste time. We have the knowledge as to how to take care of that. The problem is that when you get a project this size,
You can rent one from Tejas pretty fast. They can get it over here pretty fast.
right, but the problem with this kind of a project, as far as the size of this project, is that it takes all the collection department, which leaves everything else kind of wide open as to what they do, and the preventive maintenance and taking care of sewage backups and everything else that comes up. But in the conversations that we've had in our meetings with managers, we've talked about pulling people from different areas that could help in situations like this. And so what we would really like to do is maybe even if we can afford to buy one, we'd rather buy one, although it would take quite a bit. But some of the other managers feel that there is a need for it.
How many times have we actually really needed that big one versus
That's the
renting
thing that
one?
that we're talking
Versus
about.
renting it. I mean, I'm not
Right.
opposed to buying one, but round numbers, $50,000 to buy one, and for the amount of actual numbers, times that you really use it, you can just call Tejas and rent it for,
And I did
Well-
ask him to put it in paper, get all the estimates of how much one new one costs and how much it costs to rent it out for a week or 10 days maybe. So they're gonna put
But if
some
we have-
reports together.
If we have any kind of projects like this, I mean, all it would take is, I don't know what they cost, but I'm gonna take the figure. And if we have 3 projects like this in a year and a half or 2 years, that'll pay for itself. I mean, this
Now,
project
we
here,
had talked about this previously when we were looking at getting the cab.
right?
And we said, well, we're gonna spend 50,000 on the cab, might as well apply that to a new, at that time, we're talking about a backhoe. Yeah, and the issue we're gonna run into is that anything that breaks on golf, we're not only gonna need the tractor or the backhoe, but we're gonna need my understanding, is a hammer to cut through all that, because we have that line buried underneath the concrete now. And so, I mean, how often, you're right, but how often it happens, I don't know. And that's something we can look into, but,
Well, but see, it's not just the excavator, that's.
but it sounds like we
major,
also have
but,
a personnel issue
Yeah,
as well.
those trench boxes, we would need to get some trench boxes as well. And we were thinking maybe get 2 5-feet trench boxes so we can stack up.
Yeah, that's a must. You probably need one of those anyways, because you
We
get,
have the
and we
smaller.
have-
but
we
you
have
get the
smaller-
bigger trench boxes, that's a must.
We
but
do have
anything
trench
deeper
boxes, but
than-
they're smaller.
Anything deeper than 10, 12 feet,
Yeah.
we couldn't handle, we don't have.
Well, if you could put some information together, Mr. Gomez, that would be great to kind of weigh out what we really, how we should really pursue it. Because
And the
it's gonna,
intent-
something's gonna break.
The intention of this is that we try to do it in-house instead of getting a contractor. Trying to save money on
Right.
that part, because I thought it was really expensive to go that route.
How deep did we have to go on that last repair?
This was about 12 to 14 feet.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, I saw the boxes, I mean, that's not something you would normally have in your.
And we do have some of those manholes that go down as far as 18 feet. So-
But we don't have them.
I'm sorry?
We don't have them. You can get them.
No, the,
Find a firm that can.
We don't have it in inventory.
No. No, but I'm saying the manholes, we do have.
No,
some.
I'm not talking
Yeah.
about that.
can you rent those also from Tejas? Does Tejas have that available?
That's something we're gonna look into.
Just as a heads up.
In this report, I'm with Mr. Friedman, please include how many times in the last year, or even 2 years, 3, if you can remember, we've actually used an excavator of this size. Also, if you could project what you would use it for if we acquire one, and then include projected maintenance costs. My question would be, I assume you have a place to house
Yes.
a
Well, that's.
machine of this
We talked
size?
about all that, Mr. Starsky.
Okay.
One of the things,
We
the storage, the trailer to transport it,
Okay.
okay, and we're looking into all of that.
We've got all that, or we
No,
would
we're
need to
looking
get
You'd
it?
have to probably acquire all
We'd have to
that.
acquire those.
We have a place to put it.
We have a
do
place to
have-
store it inside, correct?
Right,
Okay.
it'd be best to store it in-house, indoors.
Yeah, it
We
would.
do have that equipment, but at a smaller.
Scale,
Scale,
yeah.
right, it's not as large as the
The
one.
trailer in it,
Trailer,
storing it, maintaining it, these costs all need to be considered, forgive me for interrupting, in a report that you would present for us to evaluate whether it makes more sense to rent as needed or purchase all of it.
Yeah, we might come up with a suggestion of renting until maybe 1 more year or so, if that goes that route where we think it's gonna be expensive. But we'll fix it up, the report for you guys, and hopefully we can answer all the questions that by then.
Because it wouldn't just be for emergency cases, as this last example, where
Right.
if we start doing preventative maintenance, there could be a need for it in those type
It could be,
projects,
yes,
correct? Okay.
preventive maintenance.
So that's what I'm
Like,
saying, project what we would use it for if we were blessed with that
Yes,
piece of
because
machinery.
I believe that we talked about also that there's one more manhole that's pretty deep and it's kind of like shifting to one side. So that kind of gives us like a Joey.
We have to look into that manhole too.
We might have to do.
I can tell you that
preventive
the one
maintenance on
south
it.
of the one we just fixed is already, it's got the wrinkles around the manhole already.
Okay, well, that's one of the things that.
I won't ride my scooter over that one.
The preventive maintenance, you
Yeah,
got
stay
the
away from that.
manholes, you see what they look like. In doing that, Mr. Salinas has already found a manhole close to Louis that looks like it's somewhat shifting. And so we're gonna try and get somebody down there to see if it, in fact, it is.
We've had a whole lot of problems in that general area, though, that whole Laguna Boulevard area.
It's an island,
Be careful.
Oh, yeah.
and everything is shifting over there.
Okay. Any other
Especially when
comments?
it's done and everything starts caving in real fast and then it's kind of, yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Item was approved. Moving to item number 10, District Engineers Report. Charles?
All right, the first item is just the update there on our engineering services, where we had our committee meeting on December 19th, and we went ahead and shortlisted 3 firms. And one of the things we decided there in the committee meeting was to conduct interviews as a committee prior to the regular board meeting. So we're planning to meet on January 15th and dedicate 1 hour for each firm. The first one at 9 o'clock being with Sailor Winston Greenwood Engineering out of Westlaco. At 10 a.m. would be Priest and Nichols, which is in the central Texas area. And then St. Patel and Yerby at 11 o'clock would be there out of San Antonio. And so we're kind of trying to use that approach to have the committee, have a more lengthy discussion with the firms, and then take that information for the recommendation on the 23rd. And that's when we try to board and kind of get to that next step, basically. So that's the first item. And I don't know if y'all want to have.
When you come back, will there be recommendations 1, 2, and 3, or just one recommendation?
Probably be one. I mean, technically, we should rank them in case we have to start negotiating with,
Yeah, I think we should rank them actually,
Yeah.
in case something goes
Yeah.
awry.
Mm-hmm.
We have a backup.
We just want to simplify it before we brought it to the board for discussion, so we could have some more time to spend with him, as he said. But I think it was a very productive meeting, but we didn't want to bring it here prematurely without doing our due diligence on our end from the RFQ committee standpoint. So we're ready to do some interviews.
Yep.
Bring it on.
Yeah, and everybody's committed, so they're excited about it. And, we'll coordinate the projector presentations, and then we'll have a question and answer session. So, we basically told them the setup between each one should be, a couple minutes, and they should each get full hours.
And if there's any questions from the rest of the board that they want to submit, we'd be happy to ask them at the time, or we can wait till we bring them all before the board.
Perfect.
Cool, so I guess I move on to the next item?
Yes.
Which, yes, the construction progress for the Port Isabel wastewater treatment plant. We did our electrical walkthrough December 18th, generated the punch list, but that's substantially complete. We did a full plant walkthrough December 19th, so there's just some small items. The last work that's still pending is all the SCADA or instrumentation, and so that's really what is key, the last end of the project. Aside from instrumentation, all of the crews are already off the site, and their schedule, they're looking at doing testing towards the end of the month, and then wrapping up, getting everything final in February. But that's the tail end of the project. I mean, as far as the structures or the new facilities being online, I mean, 95% of the plant was in service through by September 30th. So it's just the final electrical and instrumentations, the part of the work that's just been, keeping the project open, basically. That's basically where we stand. Everything's looking good. We're still holding the 5% retainage on it's a $9 million contract. That's, that's where it's at. Right. And then the last one, I didn't have time to get any backup on it, but it's our potential tax bond projects. And that's, kind of I think what we're trying to come up with a plan to see if we're going to do a November election or, in general, as far as how hard are we going to try to hit, I suppose. And as far as the bond projects, I mean, it's really just the main ones that we've had from, our December workshop. First one being at Water Plant 1 microfiltration unit. And one thing that, we have $8.3 million scheduled for 2021 to replace those filters and get microfiltration out at Water Plant 1. And one other thing we know we need to add to it is the clarifiers. There's a large clarifier, it's pretty much rusted and shot where it needs to be a complete rebuild. So that scope should be included with this improvement. So we'll have to add that to the project and get that all, part of that request. Because that clarifier just needs to be rebuilt. And I mean, that could be, maybe another $1 million that we'd add to the project. But that's.
At our next meeting, I think it'd be helpful if you get with bond counsel and financial representatives to lay out a timeline, deadline of what things have to be accomplished, when they have to be accomplished for the bond election in November.
And what our borrowing capacity is.
Yes.
And then we need, the board, we need to have a workshop, figure out what your borrowing capacity is and your repayment capacity. And refinance, if we can refinance the existing bonds we have. And take it from there. If you're gonna go, then you have to identify the projects, the amount of money, and get your time frame to move forward.
Yeah, I mean, those steps are gonna be improving the engineering report, and then, getting everything scheduled for the election, so, all that goes, the schedule goes by quick to hit November.
We're already halfway through January, basically. So this does creep up on you, and if you're gonna do it, this needs to be done very professional, very sequenced out.
Yeah. And then, I don't know if we need to go on with a list of projects. I mean, I'm seeing that water plant one, probably need to do something major for elevated storage tanks or ground storage,
Yeah.
rehab in there.
We can't poll, but you need to make sure everyone, all members are on board to go through, because it takes 5 board members moving forward with all these projects.
Agreed.
We're talking about the plant number 1?
Bonds.
Bonds.
Yeah, I mean, I would think it's gonna be more than plant one. I mean, like, just kind of going from our 5-year plan, as plant one, probably want to address the major rehab on our elevator storage tanks, and, still shoot for some headworks at Andy Bowie and Isla Blanca, similar to, and Laguna Vista, similar to what we've implemented at Port Isabel. Because, I mean, that's a huge improvement, getting all that grit out of the system before you go through the process, or, the trash that just passes its way through the plant with our current, bar screens, all that's the thing in the past year at PI now, so.
Where are we at with about using the, that bond for the island over here for the water plant?
Oh, for the seawater?
Did we ever get an answer on that?
Well, no, I mean, I never submitted the letter to Attorney General, so I mean, it's still.
Is that included in this tax proposal?
No, I wasn't planning on
Okay.
addressing that project at all.
Okay.
I mean, we would leave Proposition 2 for seawater as.
I know we talked about it,
open-ended.
but just
It
curious.
probably has an expiration date coming up. It should be pretty,
Well,
it had a
it's-
5-year expiration date, if I
Oh, is there
remember.
expiration?
If I remember, it was 5 years.
It didn't have an expiration date.
Did not? I thought it had a 5-year expiration date. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, from my discussions with Noel, I mean, you can come back 20 years, get the opinion from the Attorney General, and if it still meets the intended use of the voter, you can proceed at that stage. But that's
Okay.
that's the most, that's kind of the general discussion I've had with Farm Council.
Okay.
From a political standpoint, I would encourage us to consider, I know water plant 1 is sounds like requires the most attention. Just make sure maybe we sprinkle in things that's going to benefit the majority, if not all, of our customers, because the voting base is, from Laguna Vista all the way to the island, so.
Well, you got to think that plant feeds the whole system. I mean, just because the plant's physically located in Port Isabel, I mean, that's our water for the island, going back to Laguna Vista.
They're
there's a whole-
interconnected.
Yeah, the whole system's tied
Interconnected
together.
systems.
Okay.
Do we need to
That way
prioritize some of these expenses, or?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of, we're going off that same 5-year list that was in the last board package.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think there's some list that, like, the only thing I see here is the microfiltration unit, which listed as revenue debt. But I mean, and then the same with the ground storage tanks, which we should probably, if we're gonna pursue the bond election, move it over to tax debt, if we can get it approved. That would be the only real change I see on the, from what we've already presented in the past.
Is that it?
Yep, I guess that does
Okay.
conclude the
We'll
report.
move on to number 11, a presentation by District Engineer for Wastewater System Odor Control Plan.
Do you happen to have the PowerPoint, Casey, or if we can? Yeah, I put together a PowerPoint presentation. It's in the, on the back of, we can either go through the hand copy here unless we can open it up. Oh, was just a page on the PDF? Okay. So, it's just kind of the title, and then we can go to the second page. And the way I opened up with this one is just putting out our goals and objectives. I mean, there's kind of 3 main points that we have for odor control. I mean, the first one is minimize nuisance odors that are caused by wastewater collection and treatment to prevent customer complaints. We want to make sure there's no torches and pitchforks, and everybody's kind of, we're keeping everything within reason. And then the second item that came up during our discussions is to implement the grease control requirements to reduce sewer backups, reduce pump repairs, and prevent sewer spilling.
where you don't want it to go. And so that's really, I mean, there's a state standard that's out there, model rules, and we're looking at adding pretty much the same thing verbatim to our service policy. And that would involve, just like a pretreatment manager or environmental technician. That, I mean, in general, it's more starting to, look at manifest for restaurants and putting some standards into the grease traps and kind of adding some enforcement action for some of the problem customers, and that general area is where the grease control requirements will come into play. And then the third one is just corrosion control. We don't want to do anything that's going to accelerate corrosion within our system. With an attempt to mass the odor. So, and then of course take care of our back trucks, maintenance equipment. So that's basically our goals, objectives that need to be considered for odor control. And so the next page is just kind of general, telling us our wastewater collection system. It's a series of gravity sewer pipe, just kind of like gravity do its thing. Our diameters range from 6 inch to 8 inches. We have 32 lift or pump stations, and then the force mains that kind of daisy chain to get up over to our 4 wastewater treatment plants. One Laguna Vista, Port Isabel, Annie Bowie, and Isablanca. And there, once we get to the plant, we separate the solids, haul those off to our monofil, and then get the water clean where we can release it out to the bay. And then so our measure that we use, the only parameter we look at for odor control is hydrogen sulfide, and that's measured in parts per million. And so with concentrations less than 1, it's low importance. 1 to 10 is moderate importance, and greater than 10 is high importance. And these are numbers that, was one of those presentations up in Portland when we went to the odor control. So, our actual numbers are all the way above 10. So, I mean, on the next page, just kind of gives you some of the measurements that we have. In August 2018, we purchased our own reactor log with a range of 0 to 1,000 parts per million. The first place we tested out was this manhole 19 there on the south end of 410 Plaza at that wave bus stop. And so we left get a profile. The average hydrogen sulfide there is 388 parts per million with a max of 946. So, I mean, that's pretty much why we keep them sealed and bolted closed. So, this was one of those locations, might be jumping ahead, where we installed a manhole scrubber. And, when we just released those bolts, you got that wave of, H2S coming through. And we dropped in a manhole scrubber at that location there in August, let it ventilate, and you can be standing on top of a manhole under those conditions. And
Is there a chance that we are reading it wrong? Because if anything over 10 is high importance, and we are like 30 to 60 to even 90 times what it says is high importance, like, are we off by a decimal or two by any chance?
No, that's
Or am I reading that right?
It's that hot and that slow, and that's just characteristic of where we live.
Okay. So we're like at the maximum reading.
Yeah, I mean, if we had a range that could go to 2,000, we'd be picking up the numbers on those spikes.
You said that hot and that slow, meaning the movement of that line is that slow?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's conditions of just warm weather and, a long flat system with a lot of wet well storage and, that kind of thing.
So we definitely have a problem.
Yeah, I mean, it needs to be treated. It's not something that can just, I mean, right now we're using the Microsolve, we have OdorSolve, but.
Are there government regulations around this? Like, if you're over such and such, you're like against federal regulations for air quality? That we could be liable for, or at least be in violation of, or not in compliance with?
I mean, we don't have there's no TCQ inspections or any regs that really address your limits, like for odor control. I mean, it's more just going by customer complaints is really the restriction that is really followed.
I don't know if there's federal regulations around like hydrogen sulfide parts per million. I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm not
If
sure.
it's one of those things where like, if nobody ever says anything, it's not a problem, but if somebody made a phone call and suddenly this agency's coming in and asking questions.
There's no one to complain to.
No, not about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those to where, maybe through,
Yeah.
the more times people know where to make the phone call and pick up the phone, that's kind of.
Like the EPA doesn't have a opinion on this that we know of at least.
Not aware.
Charles, what about these gentlemen over here? Do you all know about the regulations on?
No, main stores, no. I mean, the only thing I've had a inspector tell me is make sure your guys wear a meter. when they open up that well,
Or for the.
and if it's too high, just have them get away from the well, you know, they don't regulate.
Like, there would be confined space regulations, where you have to ventilate, like, you can't go into something in that condition, that's where you drop. I mean, you know, you have to, take care of stuff like that.
About a year ago, we went to Portland, well, not a year, but several months back. We went to an odor
So year goes in January.
control meeting in Portland at a conference, and they had a lot of presentations, and everybody was having problems with this type of issue. El Paso, as a matter of fact, was one that had really high marks, and they finally managed to bring it under control, but they were having all kinds of problems with that. And actually, not only us here, but also PUB. There's certain areas that you can drive by, even from the street, you can smell it, and it's something that needs to come under control, but we're working on it.
Brownsville, you don't have to go too far, because there's some stations in Brownsville where you're driving by and.
Yeah, the ratings for Brownsville exceed 2,000 parts per million in some of those stations. I mean, that's just what they have.
That's why we move here.
Yeah.
So what's the solution?
The solution, I mean, you know, the next page from here was just measurements where we need to try to, I mean, for manufacturers to size something, we have to tell them the airflow that we're passing through and the concentration. So the more accurate our data can be on those 2 points, the better information we're giving to manufacturers to size, you know, whatever improvements we might be putting out there. I guess we just kind of keep scrolling down. This was just measurements we did to try to calculate that.
Yeah,
keep
the problem.
Yeah.
Let's get to the solution.
And so again, our existing solution is, I mean, this is what we use today. I mean, we have Microsolve, this MS pump kit, that's basically what we have at 5 lift stations. And then the Solar Solve on the right is where we have it at 2 lift stations, the one in front of Isle Grande, and one at the Conversible Solar Plant. And so there's the chemical cost that goes to that. And this is just an example of the aerator where we dropped in. We have 2 in place, and we're looking at purchasing a couple of extras, which we'll go into. This next one is that manhole scrubber from Cineco, and this is basically.
Can you hold on, can you back up to the odor control measurement where you talk about the flow rates?
Yeah, I mean.
Odor control measurements with the, keep going, that one.
Right, so basically what we have an annual instrumentation contract with Sendero South. And so that fixture is just a $15,000 instrument that they use, that we can just call them over, and it's just 2 magnets, they can put it on the pipe to give you a flow measurement. And so this is the flow rate when a pump turns on. Like when that pump turns on at lift station 1, for 2 minutes, you're pushing 109 cubic feet per minute.
So that one at Ocelot, where it also happens to correspond with the highest odor problems, the highest odor ratings on the previous page, is it's barely pumping any water through there, or any sewage through there? Is that what it's telling us?
Well, what it's, like, the only thing, at lift station 37, we have an aerator sitting in there. And so that aerator is intended to break up the grease, but in that process of turbulence, you're seeing that kind of profile, where the average is 506 parts per million on your H2S.
And on top of that, there's barely any flow.
Right. I mean, it's just the turbulence from the aerator it gave us that profile.
That's the problem, is the flow.
Right.
Yeah, it seems the flow is what's causing it. So how do we increase the flow?
Actually, I think it's the pump size. It's a smaller pump.
Small pump?
At Ocelot and Mesquite, it's way bigger pump.
Yeah, I mean, you need to keep the flow just slow and steady. You don't want to have any drops. Every time you're going to have a drop, like that one manhole in front of the bus stop on 410, you have an 18-inch line, pretty oversized line, and then you have a service from SIDA and a service from La Joca, and then they're both dropping in and just churning constantly. And that's why you're having a big problem at that point. And so when you have an aerator, you know, you're pushing all that gas, causing it to leave the liquid.
But there's no way that you can increase the flow because the demand's not there, right?
Right. And this flow is how it comes
I
forward.
think it's
based on pump size.
restricted to that there's not much coming in to turn the pump on more.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the pump is sized for, you know, whatever curve you need to meet the conditions, and it's going to run, you know, you need to have like a 15-minute cycle time, you know, for your pump to have some time to rest and then turn back on so it doesn't, you know, fail prematurely, that sort of thing.
And of course, the pipe size affects that flow.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, a larger pipe would reduce your head loss and, you know, so on and so forth.
but we can look into it, see if that has any?
I mean, it's just,
any
you have
particular-
50 times less flow at lift station 37 than you do at Isla Blanca, lift station 19, right? I mean,
Yeah, that's just the required size of the pump for
that's all it is.
keeping the water going without spilling up the top.
Just to compare, see if it has anything to do with that, you know?
Yeah,
Flow, concept, you know, where.
yeah, no, but I mean,
increasing-
but I know like, the reason for that profile being what it is, it's the aerator being, that's what it causes for.
Anyways, you were going over what the solutions are.
Yeah, the solution is, where it's that bad, keep it contained and don't let it leak. And then, then you keep moving downstream to a point where you want to try to treat it. And so, let's see, I guess, if we want to, I mean, really, that kind of comes down to where I'm proposing a dry air scrubber, but we'll get there in the slides, I suppose. Let's see, where are we at?
Probably in the existing
Yeah, I mean, do we want to go through
conditions
more
and then-
details on where our microsolve is at today, or we can just jump through all that?
Well, Microsolve is one of the solutions that we're using.
Right.
And the scrubbers,
Yeah, scrubber, we have one in place for requesting the line of second. So yeah, I guess we go down one more slide.
So you put a bubbler in at 37 in Ocelot. When did you put that in?
Oh, well, we just.
Last month, okay. So we're hoping that that shows an improvement.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, it's gonna break up the grease and, you know, then just kind of move it downstream, underneath that. But yeah, we can go down one more slide, Jason. And so, I mean, this is kind of starting to get into cost for what our current system is doing. I mean, one of those bubblers is about $2,200. A pump kit at a lift station, $650. And then this is what we're spending a year on chemical that goes hand in hand with those pump kits. So, you know, we're spending.
But the chemical really doesn't seem to be as effective, that's the problem.
Yeah. I mean, I think a primary value of the chemical is breaking up the grease so we don't have backups involved, and that's what it's doing for us.
So if you go with the bubbler and some of these other, will you be able to reduce your chemicals and I guess the cost? So what you're spending, so if a bubbler costs you X number of dollars, 2,200, but you're currently servicing it with solution, so you'll be using less solution. So,
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, I think the way we can look at cutting back on chemical is, you know, grease control requirements, you know, making sure we get a little more, you know, proactive on not letting grease traps, you know, full, or, you know, doing whatever we can do on that end.
You know, and then really, to me, that's number one.
Yes.
We've got to get a handle on the grease that's going into the system that should not be going into the system.
Right.
Because if we don't do that, we're just sort of spending money that doesn't need.
We're not fixing the problem.
right,
Exactly.
Right.
right.
So no more bacon at my house, is that what we're saying?
Well, I mean, the only restrictions coming to restaurants. I mean, whatever, residential is not going to be regulated by our grease control requirements. I mean, we're not going to go make houses with grease traps. That's just not outside of our area that
Sure.
we're regulated.
So do we know, like, these are some offenders, and what do we do to stop it?
Yeah, we do.
We do.
We know the offenders, and we're coming up with a policy to address.
Yeah, and I mean, like when we have the service policy resolution, all the language is going to be in that draft. And you'll see there's basically, you know, like an enforcement section where I think the first incident is $500, but then with each incident, it increases $500 until they realize they need the right size grease trap, or, you know, we'll kind of have to figure out how far, you know.
Or even have a grease trap. There's some that I
Right.
don't believe honestly have grease traps,
Right.
but.
I mean, we're spending a ton of money just on chemicals. There's no reason we should be paying that if it's, you know, people aren't complying with what they're supposed to do.
And I believe educating the public also, that, you know, you can make as much bacon as you want, but don't dump it in the sink, you know.
You know, get the paper towel from the
Probably,
trash can.
yeah,
know,
you can dump it in the trash can, you know, containers.
And ultimately,
take it out.
that's,
But, yeah,
ultimately,
throwing the
that's
stuff in the sink, you know, where.
ultimately, the solution is for us as an entity, to be aware of what people are doing with our system and be proactive from that end, you know, because when I started looking into this, my goal was to not spend $90,000 a year on grease control or odor control. But then I realized that it's only a certain segment that's creating that issue, but I started thinking, well, that's not solving the problem. Buying more scrubbers, buying more, you know, these airflow devices and all this, that's good, but that's just a Band-Aid. We need to get to the source, and so we can't do anything about residential, but we can do something about the commercial.
But I have seen in other communities where they do some educational promotion and pamphlets. Don't dump it, where was it, somewhere?
Yeah.
And don't dump it in the drain, and, the little jingle, and,
Yeah, well, there's even some posters, like some guidance TCQ provides.
Yeah.
I think we had some at the church.
and have gone to, like, in Austin, where they go to the schools and stuff and educate, I'm not advocating go all that, but, educating people about don't dumping anything in the disposal, or other than it's not biodegradable.
Right.
I think we should do, we have a huge population that, might be first generation in the area, so they may not understand, some of them, oh, wow, look at this great bike, down it goes. I mean, I think educating them is essential. How do we know that that is what causes the problem? You said grease is the main problem, how do we know that?
So you can see.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
It hardens like a big, it just hardens in the line.
yeah, you'll see it in the number of calls for sewer spills and that
You
sort of
don't
thing.
clock that line, you see that big.
Clump of,
Big grease coming up.
Big sticky, stinky
And it smells terrible.
grease plug.
Yeah, that's what creates.
Grease
the smell.
plug.
That's part of the smell. so-
Yeah, don't invite me down, that's what I wanted to hear. I wanted to know that, yeah,
Smells worse than sewer.
Photographs is fine.
Yeah,
Smells worse than sewer.
photos are
It's a big
fine.
blob. It's a big blob. I mean,
Blob of
it's a
stinky
blob of-
stuff.
And that makes it harder when you're going to treat it,
Are there places
That's our
residentially
difficult.
that we know, yeah, these guys, they're clearly dumping, residential wise?
There are some,
Yeah.
they're very on it, like a couple of them.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of that, like.
Are we getting that in the Laguna Vista ones where it's, where we've got some higher readings? What are the grease ones like at 37? Is it really greasy and nasty there, or that's more just?
37 actually has a lot of grease, but I don't know if it comes from that, the restaurant they have there. I don't know if they have a grease trap. That's the thing. We get a lot of grease in that lift station.
Yeah, I mean, we had discussion with Brownsville PUB, like their environmental technicians, that they've had a pre-treatment program in place for, a long time.
Mhm.
And, when they implemented this grease control that we're trying to add to our service policy, over time, they realized about 80% of the grease is residential. And so the policy only covers commercial kitchens. And as far as, people who are having unlicensed commercial kitchens, like, cooking tamales out of the house or something,
Mhm.
I mean, that area can be regulated, by not letting them have commercial stuff, in a residential area. But that would be the extent that would be involved there.
I mean, there's really only 2 restaurants in Laguna Vista, so.
What the problem is gonna be, and how do you enforce or check on a business, they're already in operation, and then how do you enforce it and say, well, you need to do this?
Yeah.
Because they've already been in operation, it's,
Well,
Those are usually,
you find
those are usually
the
city
amounts that
health
make it
inspectors.
hurt.
no, I know, I'm not trying to stick up for anyone, but I
No,
mean,
no,
it's,
that's how you do
it's
it.
kinda like, the cat's out of the bag type of a deal, and,
They either increase their capacity to
Right.
retain.
it's gonna be
They're
it's
gonna
gonna be a tough one when it comes up
Yeah,
to,
and working with their plumber to size their grease trap, we're going to be dictating size, but they use.
It's gonna be-
to,
it's gonna be a political sticky one.
I mean, we got some big restaurants established on the island, old timers that, teeny tiny grease traps.
No, I know, it's gonna be a tough one.
Louis' backyard is one of them.
Yeah, I didn't make any names.
Yeah,
I'm not
on
mentioning
my list, I
names,
tried to
but
use 3
Keep it
addresses.
general, but that's how would you like if someone came to your business and said, you need to do this, and it's gonna be a tough one.
I don't like it, but I mean, you do it too. It's happened in my business. I've installed different traps to capture different materials, and if it's for the overall environmental health of the community, especially odor-wise, generally the public is behind that.
Yes, but we're not quite
Just
living in a
like
very
a
green
backflow
environmental
assembly.
friendly
Yeah.
neighborhood either. Anyways, let's keep moving, let's not get derailed.
So yeah, so I guess we'll go to the next slide. Let's see where we at, Jason. Okay, so that's still existing. We'll go one more. Yeah, so this is where we're getting to proposed improvements. I mean, this is what we need in terms of additional microphone that we're not using today. We're requesting 2 additional bubblers, one at lift station 7, which is 501 Island Avenue here in Fingers. Lift station 10 is the one here by the yellow house on Highway 100, close to Las Hoyas. So we want to add the aeration at those 2 points to break up that grease. And then at lift station 7, we need a pump kit. We're not treating that area today.
So from our existing vendor, I mean, I guess we're proposing above what we already have in the budget is at $5,050. And then this next slide is getting into new equipment. I mean, it seems like with these manhole scrubbers, our goal is to use a decentralized approach to odor control. I mean, the more points in the system you can be taking care of that odor, it'll reduce the size of whatever, treatment unit, have planned, or wherever you're gonna, the longer you let that odor stay contained in a pipe and you're trying to force it out, the harder it's gonna be to clean at that point. So as far as to help decentralize some of that odor control, we're trying to add 7 additional manhole scrubbers. We're going to propose 3 here on Woody's Lane, 1 at Lift Station 16, which is there on South Shore near Garriga, 1 on here along Highway 100, about 510 feet south or from Champion Street, which is I think more or less in front of the road. In Laguna Vista, we're looking at putting a manhole scrubber there on Mesquite right in front of the lift station. And then we also are proposing a scrubber on East Corral on Padre Boulevard. And one thing we did notice on West Corral, you could say, is basically on east of Pompano to East Maisol, all that area goes through 6-inch sewer lines. It comes on Padre, goes to West Corral, and that whole service area is still on a 6-inch line going down to Laguna. So that's a whole lot of customers on a 6-inch sewer line. And so, we have to recognize when some piping's undersized, we need to look at upgrading. That would help. I think usually, from that point, we head all the way up to Red Snapper, and that's where we lift it and send it off, to the next area. And so usually, on cleaning, we have to go all the way down to Whiting, kind of work the way back, because it's one of those trouble spots where we're out there once or twice a month, cleaning backups. And so that's just, one of those areas where maybe you have to look at a capacity issue. Or, or the grease traps, maybe that'll help, trim it down or knock it out. And I guess if we go to the next slide, this is, I guess, the new products. In one, we're proposing this Peacemaker 10-foot by 7-foot dry air scrubber. And this is proposed along FM 510 after the force main from lift station 37 in Ocelot ties in there upstream at this point. And at that box tunnel, we have like a little rise in the pipe. So there's kind of an air pocket that can just sit there and start to create issues. And so we have an air release valve there to help protect our pumps. But at the same time, when you open it up, it becomes an issue because you'll get the odor complaints and all that kind of stuff. So we haven't used it in several years, but we want to look at getting that air relief valve restored and then putting a dry air scrubber. So we can, that's a 2-mile force main going through there that we can just be using this point to be scrubbing it, getting the air out before it ever gets down to the plant, and try to treat it at that point. And so as far as getting this in the ground, somewhere behind the white fence, we're going to need to look for a spot to put a slab to hold that 10-foot diameter, fiberglass tank. And so that's one of those things we'd have to coordinate, see if we can, take that approach, to treat that location. And then the second item here is we found some covers that are they breathe. They're actually activated carbon, and they're like a geomembrane that we can install at all of our bar screens at the plants. And we're looking at Laguna Vista, Anibo, and Isla Blanca, each getting covers where we literally install them underneath our existing fiberglass grating, so we can still walk out there. But at the same time, there'd be an activated carbon that filters that air before it's released. And so I think between putting covers on our bar screen areas, the plants, which is the source of the odor, and then trying this dry out our scrubber, that should help cut back, at each point, basically, to reduce some of those odor complaints. And so, I guess we'll go to the next slide. And this is some pictures here of that one spot on 510 where we're looking at proposing a dry air scrubber. So, this little pipe, you can hardly see it there, but it's right there at the box tunnel by the white fence. And we're going to, like that air release valve doesn't work today, but it's pretty cheap. How much is it to change it out?
Like $6 to $7.
Yeah, so we're talking like $80 or $6-7, and we're gonna replace it, get it back in service, and then we'll have a hose bib, and that hose will run to the bottom of this fiberglass tank, and then the top of that tank has a blower, so it's just constantly pushing the air through the media that's in there, and I mean I think if you get 10 seconds of time with that foul air going through that chemical, that'll eliminate the hydrogen sulfide.
But that box is so ugly that
scrubber deal, how big, how tall is that? It looks like it's 5 feet tall.
7 feet tall.
I was gonna say, it looks like it's 5 feet tall from here.
It's
That's
taller. It's a 10-foot diameter.
pretty noticeable.
Yeah,
And
and
you
so we
cage
put-
it in, or you
Well,
fence
we
it
can
in,
do,
or?
beyond this tank, it's aesthetics. Like we can do a stucco wall, some landscaping.
I mean, the aesthetics are.
You know, we can do something to cover it up.
I know some people do stuff over landscaping or whatever, I mean, but you're right, that's hideous. I mean,
Yeah.
if we do something to clean up how that's presented, I think that could work.
Yeah. So
Where's that exactly located? I'm still trying to get my head around.
Oh, like you know where the golf carts cross underneath the 510?
Yes.
There's this pipe is actually right up at the top. Like, because
So on the south side or the north side of that tunnel?
the south side. No, north side. It's on the base side of 510, like towards Ocelot, that side of the road.
So we could just put a giant white tank at the entrance of the golf course.
Welcome home.
It's gonna be like a nice fence, a mural, landscaping. It's kind of like, you know, you have the working product inside something pretty that you put a facade on.
We'll just make it look like a golf ball or something, and then
I mean, this is the
sell it.
unit.
Could we sell advertisement on it?
Get rid of one job and make it another.
We could, I mean, I don't know anything about that, but every water tower's got advertisement on it. We could,
I mean, we'd have to do some kind of wall, some kind of fencing, and then that's where you can paint it with whatever you want to, you know, do somehow. And then the thing is, we probably, I think it's just a little much to try to put that inside TxDOT right away. So we probably have to be, you know, on the golf course side of the fence, request an easement off the golf course to place it in somewhere.
We've got fences around all our lift stations, so I don't see an issue in hiding them.
Yeah.
this gets rid of all the issues?
Mask them.
No.
Right.
It doesn't get rid of them.
It's I mean, between the activated carbon at the bar screen and this dryer scrubber, I mean, there better be an improvement. So, I mean, but, you know, all signs point to working out pretty well. And then let's see, this is those cost systems. Basically, you know, Laguna Vista is the one that we went out there on the tour. We're talking about a 7-foot by 12-foot area.
Don't touch the railing.
Yeah, we're going to be putting covers there. At Annie Bowie, the same type of bar screen area. We're looking at a 7-foot by 11-foot area. And Isla Blanca gets more complicated because it's a long channel. It's about 40 feet long. And the bar screens are also above the fiberglass grading. So at Isla Blanca, we have to do a tent structure to contain, you know, that foul air, the raw area, and still have access for maintenance to go in there clean it.
So what if we just put the things on the, what if we just did step 2? What if we just did the PODZ horizon and not the Peacemaker? So would it hurt to try one, see what our results are, and then if it doesn't work, go build up the?
I think that's reasonable. I mean, I think we can look at just trying to, these covers first. It's a lower cost item than the dryer scrubber. And then if that resolves complaints, you know, no sense.
Well, so far, it's worked.
Yeah.
Are we still receiving complaints from these areas?
I haven't heard any new emails since that last round that we went through.
I'm sorry. No, I haven't heard anything.
I've been on vacation, so it's probably helped a little bit. We haven't been flushing at the house very much.
We're dumping the bacon grease.
That's right.
So we didn't get to visit the Isla Blanca, so now I'm seeing pictures of it. Walk me through, is this
Yeah.
a rendering of what you're?
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of, this is just a picture of the bar screen, and then that little area off to the side, that's a picture I pulled off the website. That's what these screens look like. And then there'll be some kind of anchoring to have them stay in place, no fiberglass grading around top of them. So if we scroll down to the next, that's the Laguna Vista area. Can we go to one more slide, Daisy? So that's Isla Blanca. So this is the one that we need a tent structure. Because right here at the bottom of this picture on the left, that's our metal plate, but that's our wall, where the raw influent is coming that way, and then it heads kind of towards the back end of the picture where those white pipes are at. And so all that area is the raw prior to getting mixed with all the return flows that are pretty much resolved.
You said you want to build a roof over this? Is that
Well,
what I just heard?
Yeah, like, no, well, it's not necessarily roof, like, it's gonna be, because those bar screens, they're 2 feet higher than our
Right.
fiberglass grading. So we need to, we're looking at maybe a 6-foot height, and then enough area for the operator to get in there and still use the rake to clean out the bar screens. But it's gonna be contained, you know, within this area that goes through an activated carbon filter.
they wear any breathing mechanisms when they go in over top of those?
Oh, well, this would be new. We probably have to get their SCBA or just ventilate it, and go through a standard operating procedure before we go in there.
It's pretty nasty stuff.
Yeah, it is.
But it's got, at that end is where you find a lot of white beads, a lot of this plastic stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if you see that basket right there, I mean, that's what they're pulling off.
Nobody's on it.
And as long as there's a manual bar screen like that, I mean, a lot of it's just passing through. But, we have to look at something major to really capture most of that, like what we did here in Port Isabel. I mean, how often are we filling a basket like that?
It's on a daily basis. Well, depends on the time, like right now, it's not too bad. Summertime, it'll be on a daily basis. Right now, it'll take about 3 days to but it does get cleaned on a daily basis.
Good.
So, I mean, let's see. I mean, of course, we got our opinion of probable cause. So the Horizon system coverage, that would cover all four, all three plants, separate from Port Isabel's a different animal now. I mean, we're looking at $34,500, and then we'll have to do some pipe supports, and the installation's going to be done in-house. So I just put another $5,000 in there to do the supports for that tent structure.
So what's the smallest one? Which treatment plant would have the smallest cover?
Oh, Andy Bullion and Laguna Vista are
Laguna
about the
Vista?
same.
So like, what
Yeah.
if we just installed just a cover on the Laguna Vista one, saw how it did, before we go to all the extra expense of doing it at Isla Blanca? What if we let's do one, if it works, great. And I would sort of say same thing with some of those scrubbers, let's try them. And if we get a good result, great. And we know we can go to the next step and install them at the other two places. And if not, then, we'll have to, instead of having installed 3 that don't really work, we'll only have installed 1 that doesn't give us exactly the results we want.
I think the manhole scrubbers are really what's working so far. I think that would be a good start.
Yeah,
Start
I mean,
with that, because
I'm in
I'm leery
favor
about
of
spending
some scrubbers and
$67,000
I will try the Laguna Vista
Yeah.
to
one.
try something.
Right.
That's a lot of money to try
That's a
something.
big step. I mean,
That's a big step.
And
Yeah.
then plus the annual cost is another animal. I didn't have annual cost ready for the slide, but this is just capital to get something in the ground. But for this activated carbon, it's the life of that is about 9 months, where we're gonna have to be changing out that carbon. So every 9 months, for the 3 sites, we're looking at $5,500 to replace the activated carbon.
Yeah, so I would say do
Yeah.
one, do the small one at Laguna Vista, see how it works. I mean, that's where we're getting the most calls from anyways.
The calls in the
Right.
summer come from Isla Grande.
Do they?
I don't see anything here on that.
Yeah, well, Isla Grande, we have the,
We just
it's
redid
got
that one.
manhole scrubbers and the odor solid.
You need to detail
Yeah.
in this that Isla Grande is going to be addressed.
Okay.
Hasn't it already, is that the one we already addressed? Is Isla
Well, I mean, I think
We
with the
have
seal.
we have a big
It's just
scrubber
sealed.
there. Yeah.
It doesn't have a scrubber.
Yeah, no, we have
Well,
one.
we put it at the 410, the
At
bus
the
plaza.
410, yeah,
And
down
so,
the street.
I mean, between.
The sealing eliminated a lot of the problems, and that was about 4 or 5 years ago when they sealed
Yeah,
it.
I mean.
That
as
was a
long-
big project.
Yeah, as long as we keep those hatches sealed and nothing's
Right.
escaping and it's making its way through the chemical, I mean, it's doing its job.
And that was, about 4 years? When did you do that, completion?
Oh, yeah, I think that's how we finished off the 2007 plan, but, I mean, it was, had been like 2014, something like that.
But that's a place with all the tourist traffic that.
And that was the biggest complaints.
Yeah, I mean, we might want to add manhole scrubbers to give more ventilation on that big line, because we have that oversized line. runs
Anything
from-
going in needs to be put into a man on screen.
Yeah.
So do we have to add this to an agenda item
Yeah, I was
in order
figuring-
to action it?
Well, yeah, for the next meeting, I was gonna bring up the budget amendment and which items we wanted to proceed with, so we can kind of.
Yeah, I'd be in favor of one of the covers, some scrubbers, especially at the one that Herb just mentioned.
It's more
And
than
let's
just
try-
one cover.
Yeah, but I would say, let's try one cover, and let's make sure one cover works, right? And then,
Yeah, but you got situations like at Isla Grande where he wants to tack it upstream with several scrubbers on the manholes.
Well, I think we're talking about 2 items.
Yeah, we're 2 different
He's breaking down the POTS Horizon, this POTS Horizon quote
Okay,
for
I'm sorry.
$34,500, that's all 3 plants. And any going up Laguna Vista are pretty easy. The tent structure, Isla Blanca gets a little more complicated.
yeah, so on the pods, I would try the one, see how it works, and then
Give
I'd be in
first.
favor of all 7 scrubbers, because like you said, it sort of hit them
Yeah,
along the way,
those are-
and that way
those
we
are
can
working.
get them you know, by where all our tourists are.
Bubbler system for 2 lift stations, I'd be in favor of that.
And that way we get in here around like $20,000 instead of around
Well,
$160,000.
why don't you go ahead, whenever you come with a final figure, if we want, we can approve the entire amount. We don't have to spend it all at once. So we don't have to come back.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's fine.
I like that.
So for pods, because I already have the proposal from pods for this amount. I mean, it's a little bit less, but, you know, I mean, I had 2,000 in here for a bill technician, but we can do it ourselves. I don't think we need to pay that expense. So that knocks $2,000 out of it. And the
Yep.
pipe supports, you know, we gotta get down to find the material and fabricate it ourselves.
So we'll approve the
All
whole
of
amount, and we just might not spend it all.
Yeah.
Well, it's gotta come back, doesn't it? Because it's not.
Yeah,
an
but-
item.
Yeah, I mean, I bring back the formal request for an amendment and the dollar amount at the next meeting.
This is discussion only.
Yeah. I was,
It might be a good idea
We can come
to,
back in the end, this one page here, that's good, but like when your first bubbler systems for 2 lift stations, sub-point under that, put the 2 lift stations locations. The micro sub pump, the pump kit, where does it go, location. Detail every location where every amount of money is going to be spent.
probably be a good idea to, well, get an idea of the maintenance for at least 1 year on this.
Yes.
Yeah, the maintenance for the manhole scrubbers, the media that you replace once a year, it's $150 plus shipping at each site.
Just
And-
put it in the
yeah,
final.
maintenance for all of it, put it in the
Yeah,
final.
maintenance cost that I
Just
can
put
add.
it in the final by detail, so
Yeah.
we know.
Okay.
And then what location will it benefit? I think, ultimately, you know, so I'm with Mr. Houston. Itemize where it's going, but then under that, with an asterisk, this is where the, you know, location it'll improve.
We need to reduce it to like a 1 page that can be put in the Port Isabel Press so people can see where the money is being spent and who's it to benefit.
What did PUB spend on east?
Oh, the south side wastewater plant, the odor control there was 2.1 million.
What?
2.1 million for that BioAir.
116 doesn't seem too bad.
Yeah, we're not gonna cover all the ration basins. I mean, we're just dealing with the raw spots.
Perfect, I love it. Thank you for this detailed report from mine, and I don't have any other questions.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you, Odor Control Committee board members, for your work and efforts in this also.
Staff's put in a lot of hours over the last few months to
Yes.
work on this.
Everyone, this is a big project coming to light. Thank you. Moving to 12, Director of Finance report.
We received our draft, our initial draft of the audit today. We had an audit committee meeting just prior to this meeting. We received our first draft. We are on schedule to have a final report for our next meeting. We're substantially complete with the audit. If any, and it's just in draft form right now. If any of you are interested in getting a copy of the draft, I can print off a copy. If not, we'll have the final for our next meeting. Also wanted to advise you of our windstorm insurance is set to renew at the end of this month. That was a RFP that we awarded, a 2-year agreement with an option for a 3rd year, so we're just entering the 2nd year of that agreement.
For what?
Windstorm insurance.
There's no rate changes or anything, what, is there?
I think
Just a standard
there was
rate.
an increase of about $3,000 more or less.
Okay.
Who's that with? You know, off the top of your head?
They used our insurance agent is Clement Insurance, and they used 9 different insurance companies to cover us. It's all the private insurance. AmRisc, I think, is the majority of those companies. So that's all I have for the Director of Finance report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Salazar. Any other questions?
Need approval on it?
No.
No,
Thank you, Mr. Salazar.
just updates.
Moving to 13, consider and discuss for possible approval of the financial reports for October 2018. So, has anyone had questions? Everyone had a chance to review them? Anything to look at?
Is our wastewater services revenue up because of our rate change?
What was your question
Am I in the
again?
wrong?
We're on
Make sure
item
I'm not in-
13.
Yeah? I guess I'm on page, I don't know what, the pretty graph, pretty pie chart.
The revenue,
Yeah, no, that the rates did not go into effect until November, so no, that's not due to our rate change.
considerably up.
Yeah, if you look at the percentages, it could be a little misleading because we're only looking at one single period.
1 month.
So dollar-wise, it may not be a lot of money, but if you look at the percentage-wise, it could be double. But if we're talking about $1,000 to $2,000, well, that's 100% increase. But it's not a lot of money.
205%
Yeah.
Any questions or comments about anything in particular, or? I guess we're moving forward. 14. Considering review expenditures for December 2018. Anyone have any questions or comments on any of the expenditures?
I move to acknowledge.
Motion for acknowledgement by Mr. Houston.
You need to, I think you need to approve the number 13.
The budget, yeah.
Needs a motion.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I'll move to approve.
Motion for approval for item 13 by Mr. Avalos,
Second.
second by Mr. Lalonde. Are all those, Dr. Lalonde, excuse me, are all those in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 13 has been approved. 14, consider and review expenditures for December 2018. Mr. Houston acknowledges. Is there a second acknowledgement?
Second.
Seconded by Dr. Lalonde. Are all those in favor of acknowledging them? They
Aye.
are. None opposed. Thank you. Moving to 15, consider and remove from the table the following executive session item tabled at the regular meeting on December 12th, 2018. Discussion on legal matters with counsel concerning open records request. How do we want to handle this?
We need to remove that. If you don't make a motion for it, then it'll,
Do we still have to remove it from the table, don't we?
No.
well, yeah,
No?
the first one, yes, the first one.
15, we have to remove it from the table. 16, and then we'll take no action. 16, we'll take no action on.
Yeah, that's what I would recommend, that way we take it off. and
Adjourn the meeting.
We're still responding to
Okay.
that matter, we're taking care of it.
Item 15, consider and remove from the table the following executive session item tabled at regular meeting on December 12th, 2018.
So move.
A motion to take off the table by Mr. Avalos.
Second.
A second by Mr. Houston. Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Items off the table. Item 16, executive session permitted by Open Meetings Act VTCA Government Code Section 551001, at sequence under Section 551071. Consultation with attorney. Discussion on legal matters with counsel concerning open records request. No action at this time.
When's the attorney going to be available to address this issue? It's been up the last two meetings.
Yes,
I'll find out tomorrow because he didn't show up today. so-
without
He didn't
notice,
call
and
me.
even give us notice or send us another
He
counsel,
didn't call me today, so he usually calls when he's gonna be out.
or send us someone.
We got a table again?
No, we took no action. So I need, item 17, consider an action on executive session if necessary. There is no action. Item 18, meeting is adjourned at 6:52 PM.